Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation Vidcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. Pardon me. And part of the Big Play Sports Network. I was blessed enough to be on the Big Play Cleveland Browns podcast last night. Had a great time chatting with them. I hope you guys had a chance to see me chatting with the Cleveland Browns fans over at their podcast from last night. That is over on the SteelerNation.com page. If you want to click on that to follow that link, it was a fun discussion. We had a good time, giving a couple jabs to each other, but we had a fun time. But this is rivalry week. This is Cleveland Browns week. What the hell is up with the team? We go from being a decent team, an adequate team, being able to beat a great powerhouse team like the Tennessee Titans, then turn it around and not be able to even locate the football in Kansas City. So what is up with the Steelers? I will tell you succinctly. It is the rookie wall. The rookie wall. We did not hit the rookie wall. Our players did not hit the rookie wall. The rookie wall hit our players. We have 4 offensive rookies starting on offense. Kendrick Green is starting to show he doesn't have the legs anymore. They pulled him from the game. They said it was an injury. They said it was a calf, but that was right after the big sack fumble on Ben Roethlisberger. Same thing with Moore as well. They pulled him from the left side of the line off the game, but Najee Harris is the only one that appears to be playing like he's a full-on veteran. He had one of his best games, 90-some yards rushing, closing in on 1,000, only like 30 short yards until he hits 1,000 yards. But we'll have to see how this works out in the future. And as you know, Steeler Nation, this is your vidcast. I'm taking your questions. I'm taking your comments live. You have something on your mind, throw it up there. You got something you're feeling, put the chat box in whatever you're watching, your position of choice, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. I'll be able to see it all and respond to here in real time and even throw them up here in real time as well. But this is just absolutely incredible on just the turnover and roller coaster season that we've had this year. My friend Brian Brown chiming in from YouTube. Why, oh, why would a Steeler fan listen to the Browns? Sup, Stryker? I have so much fun. I'm going to tell you the truth, Brian. I love going on rival teams' podcasts. I just have a great time just talking football. And I'm like one of those guys, I live in the Baltimore area. I know what it is to live in a rivalry setting. I know how to get along. I got tons of friends that are Ravens fan. My mom's a Ravens fan. But it just comes down to talking football, and that's what you got to get to. I'm not there to make fun of your team. I'm not there to make fun of you personally or talk about your decisions that led to the reason why you don't understand that you're rooting for a terrible team. But it's always just a fun time. I mean, I got to bring up the fact that they chose not to draft Ben Roethlisberger, to draft the legacy player that was their old tight end. Oh gosh, I even forget the guy's name. Kellen Winslow Jr. Kellen Winslow, of course, was a Hall of Famer for them. But Kellen Winslow Jr., they drafted. He ended up riding motorcycles and busting his head, much like Ben busted his head as well. But Ben came back and won another Super Bowl, made it to another. We were hoping he'd make it to one this year. Obviously, this is his swan song this year, and that was something I really wanted to talk about. See how you guys are feeling, too. Like, this is Ben's last home game. We've been talking about this all season. I told you. Ben is not going to come back next year if he's taking a pay cut. That's the writing is on the wall, because he's set his value at being below market value. 19 mil is not a starting quarterback salary. We have been, would love to see him at least just run the offense the last 2 games. Just want to say, Ben, go out and run it. Call whatever plays you want. You've been in the league for close to 20 years. You should be able to figure this out. Get us to the end zone. That's it. That's the offensive game plan. Last 2 games. Ben, get us down the field. We'll try to. You get us in the end zone, because it's his team. This is it. This is it for Ben. Ben gave up the money to have all these players on this team. Ton of rookies this year as well. And obviously, I even had to just talking through it. I was very excited that we drafted 4 rookies. I was so surprised at the beginning of the year when we had 4 rookies starting on offense, another rookie in the nickel, another rookie on punter, six rookies essentially. Loudermilk started this year. Just started last game for us. That's a 7th rookie that started for us this season. And I was excited, wow, we drafted well. But in retrospect, this is kind of a rebuilding year, guys. I didn't want to admit it. I know a lot of Steeler Nation didn't want to admit it, but you're not going to get 7 starters that are rookies in a season unless it's a rebuilding year. And this is the start of it. Next year, are we going for that quarterback? I don't know. I think we solidify offensive defensive line. We have another down year. Then you get your quarterback, because the quarterbacks don't really seem like off the charts awesome this year. Pickett, I wouldn't be upset if we got Kenny Pickett, though. I would not. I think he's the best of the board. Obviously, Pittsburgh guy, not having to move far. See how he could work out, and it's exciting to me to see if he'd be able to stay in Pittsburgh and do well. Connor had some good years here with us as well. Connor having a great year in Arizona now too. Kudos to him. Nothing but love for that guy. He gave it his all for the city of Pittsburgh, both for high school, college, and pro. But I'm glad to see he's still doing well. Next question coming in. Anthony, how you doing, my friend? How about them Dolphins? Well, we need the Dolphins to lose if we want to make the playoffs now, I think. I didn't even check the standings. I know the Steelers need a lot of help. And there is that. Are the Dolphins playing tonight? What's the Monday night game tonight? Because we're only 1 week away from our next game. So tonight's game being the Dolphins at the Saints. So, or the Dolphins defeated the Saints. I'm sorry. That happened yesterday. Today's Tuesday, Stryker. Come on. Tuesday's the Vidcast. Don't you know any better? No, I don't. I've been drinking. I apologize. This is the post-COVID Christmas where everybody's just kind of sitting around, sipping on a beverage, having a good time. Sorry for getting that date wrong. Yeah, but Dolphins winning hurts us. We did not want the Dolphins to win, at least from the standings wise. I don't know if you're a Dolphins fans personally. I got nothing against the organization. They are now 8-7. So yeah, they are. We need them to lose, and we have to win out because we only have 7 wins, I believe. Yep. Steelers only have 7 wins. 7-1. Slot out 500. So we'll see how that goes from here on out. Definitely a half game behind the Ravens, half game behind the Dolphins, half game behind the Chargers and Raiders, who do play each other. So one of them has to lose or tie for us to get back in that hunt. But most importantly, Steelers have to win out. You have to win out their next 2 games, and if they don't, they got no chance. No chance. And, Colts losing out can help out, getting them in there. Steelers can get to 9 wins. Bengals losing out would help the Steelers win that division. Steelers can still technically win this division. If the Bengals lose out, Steelers win out, Steelers win the division. So it's a long shot, but it's a chance. And that would give the Steelers a home game. Obviously crazy to happen. Not seeing it happen. Could happen. Will it? I don't know. Brian Brown, I get it. You go to other team shows game week against the Steelers. Yeah, always. Yeah, and I love the Buffalo Bills podcast is one of my favorite. They're called the Overdue Bills, and they're making fun of themselves. That's a great name for a podcast, and they have a great attitude. And they reached out to me way early on in my career. I've been working with them now for 2 years, but now with the Big Play Network, I'm getting in a little bit more involved with their podcast as well because they got a Cincinnati Bengals one, they got a Browns one, but it's fun. I just love talking. I can sit down and talk football with anybody because there are at least some players on your team that I do respect. Brian Brown again. Should the Steelers focus solely on stopping the run and take their chances with Baker Mayfield? Yes. And you guys tell me too. This was one of my favorite talking points last night on the Browns podcast. If you didn't have a chance to see it, it's over at SteelerNation.com. You can follow the link. And I have it queued up right to where they put me on. So you don't have to listen for the first 15 minutes before I get on there because I'm the only entertaining one on there. So it's fun. And they have a blast, too. They're great guys. But I got to the point where they asked me, what does Steeler Nation think of Baker Mayfield? Because Baker Mayfield is a very polarizing figure in Cleveland. Have Baker Mayfield your only choice for Baker Mayfield, or do you buy his jersey or do you burn his jersey? So that's like a big, there's no in between. They either love Baker Mayfield or you hate the guy. And I told them flat out, Steeler Nation loves Baker Mayfield. Sign him to a 10-year contract. I'd love to see him on that team, keeping it competitive in the division for us to be able to beat you guys every time we see you for another decade. And I said that in due earnest. If you guys disagree with me, you think Baker Mayfield's a great quarterback, shout it out. You let me know. If you think he's trash like I do, I don't think he's trash. I just think he's average. I think he's Bubby Brister. He can win you some games, might win you a playoff game. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Look at what he's doing with all the talent. He's got talent all over that. Excellent offensive line. Excellent defense. Excellent wide receivers. They're pretty deep at wide receiver. They're 3 deep at tight end. They're 2 deep at running back. And this guy just finds a way to be at 500 every year. I don't get it. That's why I like the guy. That's why I like the guy. And I will always be on that. Robert, great to hear from you, my friend. Hey, Stryker, when I saw your title about TJ Watt's ribs, I thought he was doing one of his off-season meat cooking contests, like with the steaks. I wish. But we saw it. He cracked those ribs in that Tennessee game, and the way he was, it looked like he was trying to stretch it out. And that's when I saw it in the Tennessee game. I thought it was an intercostal muscle, and that's the muscle in between your ribs. Really, really painful. Hurts when you sneeze. Hurts when you cough. You can't re-injure it or do anything worse to it. It's just painful as hell. But ended up coming out last week that it's cracked ribs. We saw him playing in pain last game, coming off the field at certain times just because he couldn't deal with the pain, getting back in there and choosing his spots to rush. That's why I'm worried about him being Defensive Player of the Year with missing a game and having cracked ribs for the last 3 games. Being essentially his legacy for the end of the season, to be able to say, hey, you should be Defensive Player of the Year. He should have been Defensive Player of the Year the 2 previous seasons, but this season he was on a great shot, a great trajectory. Playing injured is going to be really difficult for him to play at that DPOY level that we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing him make a splash play every game, couple splash plays every game. He's averaging 1.8 sacks per game when he's healthy. That is a Hall of Fame number. 1.8 sacks per game. That's like close to 30 sacks this season. If he played the entire season, that's 30 sacks. I mean, it's off the charts. You don't see numbers like that. Outside of like Reggie White when he first started in this league, he's probably the only person you can even say in the same breath that TJ Watt was. And JJ was a great pass rusher as well. But both Watt and White or JJ and White were both rushing from defensive end. They're a lot closer. Well, it's essentially our outside linebackers are essentially defensive end when they got their hand on the ground too. So never mind. It's about the same. They're both in line, but they're in-line players. And back then it was more of a strategic in-line thing as opposed to situational, what we do with our pass rushers. Robert again with a follow-up question. Bob Pampiani mentioned if the Steelers win their last 2 and the teams ahead of them for the wild card each lose 1 game, then the Steelers will make it to the playoffs this year. That is true. And it is also true if Cleveland or Cincinnati loses their next 2 games, Steelers win out, the Steelers win the division. So I just did that quickly mentally. They're at 9 wins. Steelers can get to 9 wins. And if they're even though Cincinnati Bengals swept the Steelers with that tie would vault them ahead of the Bengals for the division if Cincinnati drops their next 2 games. Could happen. Not saying it will. They're not playing the Pittsburgh or Ravens anymore. Those are the only teams they don't have problems with. They have problems with every other team in the league except the Ravens and the Steelers. Those 4 wins, chalk them. They were all blowouts. None of them were competitive. None of those 4 games were competitive. And they're looking tough moving forward. But when they play other teams, for some reason, especially after a big win, look out because they come down to earth pretty hard after a big win. And they just went back-to-back on Pittsburgh and the Ravens. Next question from Brian Brown. Sounds like the Steeler Nation relationship with Tomlin, love him or fire. Exactly. And they asked me that too because they love Tomlin. Like they're like the entire world, the entire league respects the hell out of Tomlin. They wish that they had the coaching consistency that we've had with Tomlin being here since 2007. They've never sniffed that type of consistency with a coach. Probably since their first coach in the 50s. And that was when they had their championship teams with Otto Graham. Let's see, who was that coach? Paul Brown. Oh, duh. Paul Brown was their last coach that really was on the roster forever. They followed up with Blanton Collier for about 8 years after Paul Brown. Looked like he had 13 years. 13 years with the team. Those are their guys. Ever since then, Bill Belichick might be their longest tenured coach since the 80s, since Marty Schottenheimer was there for 4 years. Bill Belichick was there for 5, and they got rid of him because they moved out of town. So he would have been on the team for a bit. Yeah, nobody has been since. Yeah, Romeo Crennel had 4 years. Bill Belichick had 5, Schottenheimer 4, and changed because he became the interim head coach when they got rid of Sam Rutigliano, who was actually coaching that team for, it looks like, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 6.5 because he split that 1 year with Shotty. But yeah, that would be it. Like they've seen zero consistency in the head coaching department, not like the Steelers have had with their 3 past coaches. They commit a decade to these coaches. And that's saying something for a lot of teams that only commit, we're going to commit 3 years to you. We're going to commit 4 years to you. We're going to see if you can rebuild. And that's it. And look here. I'll go off. Everybody since Romeo Crennel with 4 seasons. Eric Mangini, 2. Pat Shurmur, 2. Rob Chudzinski, 1. Mike Patine, 2. Hugh Jackson, 2.5. Greg Williams, 0.5. Freddie Kitchens, 1. Now Kevin Stefanski, which I do think is a good coach. In his first season, they made the playoffs. He's in his second season. Now, see, that's the problem. Like, you do well when you're in your first season. Sky's the limit. Kevin Stefanski, he's our guy. But now, if they don't make the playoffs with this lineup, that's going to come down hard on Stefanski, especially with all of the injuries to the Ravens, all of the injuries to the Steelers ahead of them in the division, usually on a perennial basis. No chance to compete for the division. Cincinnati blows the doors off them. Actually, I think they're probably the only team to beat Cincinnati this year. So we'll have to see if they can pull off another win, because that would be interesting to at least hopefully keep our playoff hopes flickering, just flickering a little bit there to see if we can come back and hopefully find a way to go. But yeah, that's it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm a Tomlin guy. Like, I'm not going to lie here. I'll go back to the Tomlin question there. But yeah, I'm a Tomlin guy. I don't hate the guy. I think he's a great motivator of men. He's a great leader. He's got to find better ways to help his team successfully strategize for game days and find ways to turn things around. But this team is so damn young. It's tough to do that. It is tough to do that, especially on offense. And our offense is just looking worse and worse and worse with that rookie wall hitting us in the face every week. I mean, you guys can disagree with me, and that's fine. That's why we all have opinions on this thing. You know, I enjoy the guy. I enjoy the way he carries himself. And I don't think he's that bad of a decision maker. I love him when he was going for 2 all the time. The percentages are always there to go for 2. Technically, it's a smarter bet to always go for 2 than to kick single point since they moved the extra point back 10 yards. It is smarter to go for 2 every time. It's a higher score rate per play for the way the percentages work out. And especially, you know, if it's bad weather, you have to do it. Like, bad weather even increases that kick, making it even more difficult to do. So you go for 2 and try to get it in there and try to do it. So going to Robert, back to Rob. Rib injuries are the most painful because literally every breath you take hurts. You laugh. The pain is so excruciating. You can pass out from it. Exactly. And not even mentioning like taking a hit underneath from a lineman when you're trying to swim move around him. That's one of TJ Watt's best moves is his swim. When he swims, he's exposing that entire rib cage. He gets popped there. It's like boom, boom. Yeah, back to square one. They don't tickle. Rib injuries do not tickle. You're 100% right there, Robert. Good call. Good call. There are some who think Matt Canada will get a second year. Why? The Steelers are having trouble scoring 2 touchdowns a game. Well, here's where I'd say Matt Canada might get a second year. Number one being so many offensive rookies on this team. That aspect of it makes it kind of difficult to really know what this offense is. Also, we really don't have a quarterback for a Matt Canada system yet. We're at the end of Ben's career. He's not that mobile anymore. He can make smart decisions. I'd rather see Ben run and shoot this year for the rest of the year. I've been calling this for a month now that we should go to run and shoot because that's the only thing that's moving the football now. Though I will state that Canada has been good at his play calling, at least on the first drive. We had 3 touchdowns on first drives this season, which is 3 more touchdowns that we've had on the first drive of the season for the past 3 years. So we've had 0 in the 3 previous years. We had 3 in the first 3 drives this year. I'd like to see another quarterback a little bit more mobile, kind of Haskins-esque. I don't know if he's going to develop a little bit more to be better than Rudolph. I hope he does, because he was showing me he nearly beat Rudolph out without knowing the offense at all, just on pure skill and athleticism, versus Rudolph being 3 years entrenched in this season. there wasn't much difference between 2A and 2B, in my opinion. So 2B continued, and hopefully the Steelers find a way to re-sign him for another year to see if he can do something here. Because I want to see what he can do. I want to see what Haskins is capable of. And this may be a year, if we don't grab a vet, we might make a move for a vet. We might go out and get a Rodgers. We might go out and try to get a Wilson. Those are two franchises that they're on the cut block for this year. I know they're both well within their contracts, but both of these are decision years for both Green Bay and Seattle. They can cut them because it makes the most value for their team to retain the most money from that contract if they are cut this year. So it's written into the contract. I know both of them have expressed some dissent about being in their location. I don't know about Green Bay because Green Bay is still winning. Aaron Rodgers is still going to be at the NFC Championship game probably again this year to watch him lose to Tampa Bay again. So that'll be interesting to watch again. But he'll just have an absolute meltdown and not want to go back to Green Bay at all if that happens. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I wouldn't mind having him. Chow, chow, Dad! How you doing, chow, chow? Hey, Stryker. Can't stay today. We'll watch later. Do you think we'll be able to keep Hayden next year? Steelers are a much different team when he's out. And you're right. You're right. I ran the numbers. The 9 games that he's been out the past 2 years, the Steelers are 8-1. Or 1-8. Sorry, 1-8. And that includes the playoff game that we lost to Cleveland Browns. Because the way he got COVID, he missed both those Brown games back-to-back, didn't get to play against his former team. Steelers have no answer when he's off the field. Really don't. Like, edge-wise, it really hurt us that Nelson left. It really hurt us that Nelson got hurt because they said, you're going to be competing with Sutton. And if that was the case, the Steelers should have retained Mike Hilton. If the Steelers knew he was going to be competing on the edge, Mike Hilton should have been on this team. Easily. Like that, I was calling for that. To have a playmaker at $4 million a year is a cheap playmaker. We have playmaker. What are we playing Watt now? $21 million a year? 25? Who cares? I mean, he's worth it. He's winning us games. But we had a playmaker with Hilton. Hilton was making plays. Every other game, he'd make a game-changing play. Those kind of guys, you just try to find a way to keep them on your roster, redo some contracts, and then worry about the other stuff. But we would have been in a much better position with Sutton and Hilton on this team if Nelson decided to walk, which he did. We didn't know he was going to decide to walk until after those decisions were made, but you never get rid of a playmaker when you have the option to keep him on the cheap. On the cheap. He would have been a Steeler. No two ways about it. And they treated him cheaply on the exclusive rights free agent, his exclusive rights free agency status for 2 years previous, where we were only paying him like $1 million a year. He did all the right things. He was a Steeler through and through, to tell you the truth. We would have offered him the same money. He would have stayed. He would have stayed. Should have. We should have. Robert, back again. Tomlin lovers can get even more Mike T when he's promoted to Steelers team president. Players from the other teams can still want to come to the Steelers and play for Mike Tomlin's team. But that's not a bad idea. I wouldn't mind him getting promoted to team president or I don't know if he's a football operations guy. I know Kevin Colbert's the man for football operations. I don't want anybody doing our football operations right now outside of Kevin Colbert. And he's year to year. He was tying his cart to Ben Roethlisberger. And we do know he is still locked in for this year's draft. So he will be part. That's the way his year-to-year cycle works. He figures out after the draft if he's not going to be the offensive, not offensive coordinator, the player personnel director. We call it something else. Why am I drawing a blank on this? But he still has it through the draft. He will still be doing all the visits, checking out pro days, checking out the North-South game and the East-West games and all of in the Senior Bowl and the coaching and the practices for Senior Bowl and all that. That's the important stuff for him. It's not a bad transit. Like, honestly, this is an excellent franchise, though. I'm telling you that the money, though, aside from being a team president, the money is in the broadcasting. Tomlin's got the chops for broadcasting. Bill Cowher had the chops for broadcasting. Bill Cowher is still doing it with aplomb. I mean, these guys are just perfect. They're made to be in front of the screen. They're made to talk football. And a lot of people would really like to hear what Tomlin would have to say about other teams being outside of that defensive positioning, not really showing everything that you want to do with your team, not really being able to talk about your team in a way that would throw people under the bus. When you're an announcer, you can do that. You can do that. And you can utilize all of your wealth of information, being a college coach, a defensive coordinator, a very successful Super Bowl winning head coach. I mean, it's a perfect transition too to go into radio, not radio, but into television again, because that's where the money is. And Cowher even said it. It's like, heck, I only have to work for 4 months a year, and I'm done. Like, I don't have to do anything really outside of that. I'm like, yeah, I'll check and see what's going on in the draft. I'll check and see what's going on for preseason, but 4 months a year, that's all he has to do. That's it. And as opposed to a year-round job, which is coaching, where you might get to take a couple weeks off here and there for their family, but it's a year-round job. So kudos to him, especially read that book. It's Heart and Steel by Cowher, and it's really throws a light when you think you can be like, oh, I could be an NFL head coach. I'm a smart guy. I read that book. I'm like, I can't do the stuff that Cowher did. And then like you transition to that to what Tomlin's doing. It's like it's even tougher now with the social media, the younger players, the entitlement. It's a different league, man. It's a different league. And these guys are navigating it the best that they could and the best that they can. And those are the things that impress me about both of those coaches, to tell you the truth. Robert, coming back again. And the best part of Mike Tomlin's promotion to the Steelers team president is he will then no longer have anything to do with game scheming or any game decision-making whatsoever. I understand. I understand that side of the argument as well, Robert. And you may definitely have that opinion. Brian Brown, it's every drive in between the first drive and the last drive that's the problem. It is. It really is. Maybe we should just come out on the field and say it's the fourth quarter to start games. Then we might figure out how to score. That might be a smart thing to do. I do that on Monday Night Football. Being like, hey, guys, you don't realize it, but we're playing 4 fourth quarters. Go out there. We got to win this quarter. Who knows? We might actually do well. Ben might be in no huddle the whole game. I'd freaking love that. We'll have to see. John Madden passed away. Oh, my gosh. Brian, thank you for sharing that. That is breaking news because I did not read that anywhere today. Boom. He's on his back. Why? Damn. I didn't really mean that that was just one of his sayings that he already not describing his condition. I'm unintentionally a dick too. So that's the way it goes. I'm a son of a dick. That's all I can do. My dad's name is Richard. I'm a son of a dick. But blessings and prayers go out to John Madden, his family. Really just so impactful for bringing the masses in to understanding what football is. He had a really good way of dumbing down the game to make it easily digestible for people watching it on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, and enjoying themselves, talking about that turducken every year. Oh, look at this 8-legged turkey. It's one of those octa turkeys. Hey, this is like he said that joke every year. The octa turkey. It's like, here comes the octa turkey joke. They're showing he circles all 8 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 legs. That's some kind of octa turkey. But he was an endearing guy. The only thing I couldn't stand about the guy is that he coached the Raiders in the 70s. And if it wasn't for the Steelers losing all of their running backs in that 76 AFC championship game, they would have 0. He would have 0 Super Bowls. And that was a team that was better than every other team in the league. And you just had other teams just whoop them in the playoffs every year. Just find a way to beat them every year. But that year, 76 was the only year that Madden got there. And even though he doesn't believe that the Immaculate Reception is a legal play, he was wrong. He was wrong. But blessings to you, blessings to your family. Like I said, he changed the sport, not only for people listening at home, for people playing video games. How many of you guys grew up learning to play Madden or football games, just like any electronic football game or video game football game? Was it Madden? Was Madden your first game? It was mine. It was one of mine. Actually, I played the Super Tecmo Bowl back on the Nintendo. That was my favorite one. NES play action football I did, but then I did play Madden on the Sega when Madden first came out. And it still continues to this day. Quite a legacy and quite a franchise that he has there. So blessings to you. Sorry to hear about that. Rest in peace, John Madden. Robert, back again. Mike Tomlin will be able to make himself more available to the media once he's team president. Promotion, make his groupies happy, Steeler fans happy, no longer being any game decision maker. Sign him up. Sign him up, Robert. Love it. I love it. Kenny agrees with you. That's what's up. That is what's up. And then Steelers team president Mike Tomlin could still stand on the sidelines without any charts, a computer in his hand like he does now. I'm not going to dig into Tomlin. I understand what you're getting at. It's funny. I do like this line. I do like this line of reasoning. It's difficult. We have to have reasons why this team isn't executing, why this team, and then, we go into multifacets. It becomes a chicken and egg situation. It becomes, the team isn't executing because they're rookies and they hit the rookie wall, which is what is my belief. But, Tomlin shouldn't have drafted these guys in the first place. They should have gotten that other center. That guy's doing awesome. And, that's a chicken or egg scenario. And you have that center, and then maybe you don't have Najee Harris. You don't have Pat Freiermuth. I mean, we've been looking for a freaking tight end since Heath Miller left. And that includes all of the free agents we brought in. Vance McDonald gave us a good year, maybe 2 good years. Outside of that, we haven't had a tight end since Heath Miller left. And that's a big reason to me why we haven't been back to a Super Bowl. Ben relied on Heath Miller. He was the safety valve. He was a big reason why we make Super Bowls year in, and year out. And, it's tough to lose that safety blanket. They were roommates. They knew each other and each other's heads. I mean, Pat Freiermuth and Ben started to gain that kind of rapport going down here at the end of the season. I enjoyed watching the two of them grow together. So it'll be interesting to see, moving forward, how they can improve, because obviously we're not going to improve this year. The last time we were great on offensive line and defensive line for a complete game was against the Cleveland Browns after our bye week. We had 2 weeks to prepare for the Cleveland Browns, and we played an excellent game on both lines, controlled both lines of scrimmage. They couldn't run the ball. We were getting pressure all day. We could run the ball. We were giving Ben time all day. That was probably our best game of the year. In my opinion, that Cleveland Browns game after the bye was our best game of the year. You got to give it to a coach to be able to prepare for 2 weeks for a game like that, and be able to play that well for a game. I mean, that was worked out. Injuries derail things here and there as well, but I'm never going to blame injuries being the sole reason why we're not winning. It's just crazy to me. Like, this year, there's like 3 games, maybe 4 games that we played that were just embarrassments. Might be 5. 5 of our 7 losses were embarrassments. Both Cincinnati games, the Chiefs game, the Vikings game, and I just had it on the tip of my tongue. San Diego game. All those games where we got down huge in the first half. They were all embarrassing losses. Even the Raiders game was pretty embarrassing to watch. Remember that game? That was everybody getting hurt in that game, unfortunately. That one sucked. We couldn't stop anybody in that game. So 6 of our losses, we really weren't in those games at all. I mean, yeah, we tried to come back in the end. We made a couple of them close. We made a couple where it looked like we could have that final drive, maybe go down the field against Minnesota, maybe go down the field against the Chargers and find a way to win those games. We didn't, unfortunately. But we weren't even in the same league playing against Kansas City last week. You start turning the ball over, you can't win games, especially when your execution is as poor as the Steelers have been consistently this year. So back to the top of the scenario for Robert. I love this, Robert Tamburo, over on YouTube. The trio, Mike Tomlin and Keith Butler and Coach Fichtner, were at Arkansas State. Fichtner was the offensive coordinator. Butler was the defense coordinator, but Mike Tomlin was not a coach. He was more front office. Mike's front office guy than a coach. I don't disagree with these assessments. I think he'd be a great front office guy when he leaves the sport. And that would be interesting to see whether he's just going to stay in Pittsburgh and be a front office guy. I'm sure he's going to be offered something like that by the time he's not tenured or being a coach anymore. This guy would have to do something severe to show that the Steelers are willing to fire the guy. And usually severity has to do with just the guy being a jerk in general public. And this guy's nothing but a professional in general public. He does nothing but go out with camps to help empower youths that don't have strong father figures or family backgrounds to empower them to make them become better people. I mean, this is the type of guy Mike Tomlin is. Mike Tomlin's a great guy if you really look into everything that this guy does. So it is a guy that you'd want to have in the franchise, so in some way, shape, or form, Robert. And I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And that's one I'll keep in the back of the head that I will attest to you, Robert, every time I bring that up. Because I like that thinking. It's something I haven't thought about in the past. Brian Brown, the Steelers are already in the playoffs. They can't lose again or it's over. I'm still not giving up on the Steelers' chances. I'm with you, Brian. You know, I said last week was the playoffs started. If they won their next 3, they were in. Like, that was it. They controlled their playoff seeding last week. All they had to do was win out, and they were in the playoffs. Now, they've got to win, but they need some help. They need lots of help. They either need – here we go. Let's go to the sheet. I had it right up here. What did I do with it? Did I get rid of it? Nope, there it is. Yes, I've got it somewhere over here. Here's the standings. So some of the scenarios that we need to happen. We can still win the division. Bengals lose out. Steelers win out. That's the division because we're already a half game up on the Browns and we play the Ravens. Ravens are only a half game up on us. We get that flip on the half game. We get the Bengals with the tie at 9-7-1. 9-7-1. 7-7-1. They're 9-6. Yeah, so they'd have to be 9-8. That's right. Oh my gosh, this confuses me having that extra game. It's 17 instead of 16 games now. That confused me. That's why it didn't look right to me. I'm like, why would that be right? But yeah, we have the extra game now. But yes, that is the one scenario. We can still win the division. Oddly enough. Who are the Bengals' last 2 games? Let's take a look. Bengals' last 2 games against the Kansas City Chiefs that just plowed us last week, and then finish off against the Browns, who beat them down. The only division beatdown of the year for the Browns, beat them 41-16 back in November 7th. So there's a chance. There's a chance that the Bengals could lose their last 2 games. Not relying on it, but I'm stating that's the easiest path for the Steelers to make the playoffs. If the Bengals lose out, we win the division, we get a home game, surprisingly enough, which would be absolutely crazy. So the next scenario, we need the Dolphins to lose a game because they just won a big game. That's a game that we had to have them lose. But they have the Titans this week, Patriots the following week. And with everybody being kind of close, trying to navigate for seeding, Patriots trying to find a way to win their division, they're going to be playing hard. They're going to be playing hard the last game of the year, trying to find a way to steal that back from the Buffalo Bills, who are in the driver's seat right now for the division. So that's a tough scenario for them. Chargers and Raiders, who I do know they play each other. So one of them is going to lose no matter what. But we need both of them to lose. Broncos, Chargers is this week. Broncos are not as good as the Chargers. Chargers are at home. That's probably going to be a game the Chargers win. So we need the Raiders to beat the Chargers the last week of the season, which means the Raiders have to lose this week, and they're playing the Colts. Colts are playing great football, and they'd be playing in Indy. That's a tough game for the Raiders. Tough game for the Raiders. So there's a chance. There's a chance, especially with that Raiders game being at home. They drop a game to the Colts this week. They win at home against the Chargers. The Steelers have that half game up on both of those teams. Both of those teams. That would be the best way, at least in that scenario, for us to go in. And then the final division, the Colts, if they lose out, would give us a shot at a division, at a spot too. They're not losing out. They got the Raiders and the Jaguars. They're making the playoffs. They're in. Mark them. Stamp them. They're in. So it relies on the Steelers needing either Cincinnati to lose out or Dolphins, Ravens. Well, we play the Ravens, so we control our own destiny there. That's why I wasn't even bringing up the Ravens. That one doesn't matter. But we need the Chargers, Raiders, Dolphins. We got to root against. Those are the ones. Those are the ones who got to give us that last seat. I mean, Patriots would have to lose out also to get us a chance to get in there as well, because they're at 9-6, but they're not going to lose out. They're too well they're playing too good a ball right now. They got the Jaguars this week. They're probably going to win out. They got the Jaguars and they got the Dolphins. I can see them winning both of those games. So this is going to be tough, especially since they have to win those games because they're chasing the Bills. Bills' final 2 games, Falcons and Jets. If they hold serve, they win the division. But, you know, they got to play hard at least to try to keep up with them. So, next question coming up from Brian Brown. I know the Steelers got whipped by KC. They also beat the Titans the week before. The Steelers can still beat anyone. They just got to do it. Now, here's where I'm going to disagree with you slightly, Brian. I don't think they can beat anyone. I think they can beat running teams with quarterbacks that aren't game-changing, accurate quarterbacks. The games that we've had the toughest games against this year, Carr throwing the ball all over us for the Raiders. You had twice with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, throwing the ball all over us. You had Herbert throwing all over us. You had Mahomes last week throwing all over us. You got these quarterbacks that can throw all over us. We have trouble with those types of quarterbacks. Even Aaron Rodgers had a great game against us. Even frickin' Cousins had a good game against us. I mean, come on. But though he's got insane numbers, if you look at his touchdown to interception ratio, that's pretty insane. But accurate quarterbacks, the Steelers have trouble with. If it's a running team, Steelers can beat them. Tennessee, running team. Ravens, running team. Cleveland Browns even have a good running team. So this is how the Steelers match up. If they're playing a team that is known to run the football, they can match up a little bit better. These teams aren't as good at scoring quickly, getting lots of points on the board like these passing teams. That's why we're in games against running teams, but not in games so much against teams that can pass. And especially you turn the ball over, makes it look even worse. Even worse. Robert, is Corliss Waitman better than Percy Harvin III? No. And you can't tell me otherwise. I know Harvin's had some issues with some kicks. He's had some shanks here and there this season. He's a rookie, but he's got the strongest leg I've seen since Sepulveda. He was perfect on snap holds, which is another big aspect of kickers. No kicks were missed because of his holds. And he brought a couple down that probably Barry wouldn't have had this year. One was really high early in the season that he rose up, grabbed, and put it down without even having to come out of his stance. He did it from his knees, but he's a huge man. Way bigger than Barry in that respect. But that's not the only reason why you have a punter. He needs to improve. I'd give him another year. I really would. And heck, I'd bring Waitman in as well. Waitman's been a preseason kicker with us, or preseason punter in the past, and he can come back and kick around with us again, and we'll see how he can do. Maybe he can compete. But I personally do not think that Corliss Waitman is better than Percy Harvin. You know, my heart goes out to Percy Harvin and his family. His dad died on Christmas morning. The service was today. The funeral was today. So his mind's elsewhere, man, and the team's supporting him. If he's not there mentally this week, we're ready to have Waitman come on back out. And I understand we had a lot of death in our family here at Thanksgiving. It takes a while to get over the stuff. I mean, we're a month later, and we're still getting over it. So understand that personally as well. And you have as much time as you need, Presley Harvin III, not Percy Harvin, who is a receiver. No Steelers fan wanting the best Steelers team would want Mike Tomlin fired because he's worth value. So they would trade him instead of ever firing him. If not promote him, then trade, not fire. I mean, that's done in the past. We've seen teams get draft picks for trading coaches. Fully, I mean, it's not something the Steelers have ever done. It's not something that I don't think that the Steelers would ever really entertain, though, just as a family-run organization. Something that the Jets really probably kicked themselves about trading Belichick up to New England to be up there with Kraft. But Kraft really wanted him, and they made a big case to get him. And that ended up being the best trade ever in football, was getting Bill Belichick up in New England and away from the Jets. Because that would imagine the Jets franchise being the one that was like amazing. But I mean, the Patriots were really nothing before he went up there as well. I mean, they had that one Super Bowl appearance, I believe, against the 85 Bears, and then Bill Belichick took him to a Super Bowl against Green Bay that they lost. I remember that one in the 90s, or is that late 90s, like 97, 98, somewhere around then. One of those seasons. Just going off the top of my head, I've watched a lot of football, my friends, and I've been drinking a bit tonight, so memory isn't 100%, but I do the best I can, and you guys can always correct me. Always correct me, Steeler Nation. I'm not above my own ego where I can't be corrected. Brian Brown, that's on the secondary. Minkah has to make as many touchdown-saving tackles and no interceptions. Really, it's tough. It's a tough year for Minkah. I mean, we've got our skill players having to do more than they expected to do this season. Cam has to fill in for an entire defensive line that is missing Tyson Alualu and Tuitt, which are your two starters. He's been doing it himself. Then you have Watt, who's essentially running the pass rush game himself. Schobert and Bush really aren't pass rushers. Highsmith is doing well, but he's learning. And he's learning, getting an all-around game. He's doing decently. And then you got the secondary. And when you're missing Hayden, Minka's got to make up for Hayden and Edmonds. I mean, he's always making up for Edmonds, but damn, Hayden and Edmonds? Please, that's tough. That's the whole field, not just half the field. Crap. Yeah, Edmonds drives me nuts, and I know I take grief about it on the with the Steelers writers at SteelerNation.com because I'm not an Edmonds guy. He's a guy on the field. I would rather Steelers always have always have had somebody that can hit in that strong safety position. I mean, yeah, we had Polamalu for years. I mean, even the free safety position, we had Clark that could lay the wood as well, knock people out, separate the football from people. We had safeties that could freaking hit. Chris Hope could come down, knock people down in the blocks. We had Flowers. We had Bell used to come up from the strong safety positions, which was not the Bell that was the linebacker, the Bell that was the strong safety. Myron Bell, I believe, was his name. They just all those guys could hit. They could hit and they could hit hard, and that's all we need out of a strong safety. Whereas like Edmonds is like there. He's not really making a big hit in the gap. He's coming out. He can make a tackle in the gap, and he falls backwards when he's making a tackle, but he's not delivering the punishment. That's what Steeler fans need. We need a strong safety that's going to deliver the punishment. That's why I was expecting Carl Joseph to get more games than one, because that guy can deliver punishment. That's the type of guy I want to see with more snaps in a damn game. Unfortunately, he just got COVID now, so he's probably not playing this week. Not like they were promoting him anyway. Edmonds has just done such a great job of not getting COVID and being healthy these last couple of years. It's difficult to have anybody else come in to see what they can do. Really has been. Brian Brown. I know the Steelers have a couple interceptions. They do. They do. They have that couple tipped interceptions, that one really good diving, the cam-to-cam one. I remember that one. I thought Minka did have one this season. I know Edmonds got one earlier in the year, I think. And then didn't Schobert get one? Or did he have a fumble recovery? I know that the two outside corners don't. Hayden and all of our outside corners. We would have had one if we didn't get that one called back this past game. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. It's been an up and down year. You know, it's something that I'm not used to seeing out of the Steelers. And, you know, usually when the Steelers are having a down year, I find myself solace in watching the defense and enjoy watching defense. This year, it's been even tough for the defense to be able to pick this stuff up. I mean, it's frustrating. You guys all know it. It's frustrating to see a team just move the ball every drive in the first half and score. That's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to see a team with a running game, but not even a running game, a team that's not even supposed to have a running game, 10 yards a carry each time. You got freaking Herbert with 90 yards rushing against us. He's not even a runner. He's just like, they're giving it to me. I'm going to run. Smart. He's a smart freaking quarterback. Love the guy. Wish he was a Steeler. How lucky are the Chiefs, are the Chargers, man? The Chargers franchise always have quarterbacks. They had Breeze. They had Rivers. They got Herbert. They had Fouts. This team all, and even oh gosh, who was the one? Humphreys. Yeah, Humphreys was the one that got to the Super Bowl, beat us in the AFC Championship game. They've always had good quarterbacks there. I mean, Humphreys is more of a decent quarterback, not one of their best, but like Fouts is a Hall of Famer. Breeze is a Hall of Famer. Rivers is probably going to be Hall of Famer. Herbert's on the trajectory if he has a long career. Good player. Really good player. Schobert does that too. Too many tackles after yards gained. Yeah, and that's the stuff that drives me nuts. It's like, oh, look at Edmonds. He's got like 6-7 tackles. Great. And they're all downfield, like 6-8 yards downfield. Or after the guy catches the ball in front of him. Good job at not being there as the ball gets there and getting a PD, which he never gets. You know, that stuff drives me nuts too. A guy that's a little bit like Mitchell in his last year was the worst safety I've ever seen on the Steelers. No play Mitchell was the worst safety I ever saw play in a Steelers uniform his last year. First couple of years, he was good. His last season, he was abhorrent. And the game passed him by. He couldn't run. He couldn't cut down angles. He couldn't do anything. Couldn't get to the ball. Couldn't force fumbles. Couldn't tackle. Falling all over his legs and downfield. If anybody got loose and was running in the secondary, he's not making that tackle anymore. Like, that was really frustrating to watch. And Edmonds, at least, is not that. He's not that. Not much better, but he's not that. Want him to do better. I wish he was more than what he was, but he's just a guy. He's just a guy, and we can replace guys, hopefully in the draft. Robert, when backup quarterback is the holder, it gives special teams more of a secret advantage for trick passing players team does as the punter is the holder. Now, here's the reason, and I'm with that too. I love that strategy, Robert. I do. The problem is that the NFL does not allow 3 quarterbacks to be active every game. You have to have 1 quarterback sit. Your third quarterback has to be your third quarterback inactive, who technically can come in an emergency situation. Due to this, only having 2 quarterbacks, they have to take all their snaps during the week on offense, especially when you had Ben not even playing Wednesdays. That's Rudolph has to be in there taking snaps. And then you had even the third quarterback who was promoted to second, taking all snaps with second team, because first team and second team get a ton of snaps during practice. Now, the thought is for all the league, the majority of the league is, we're going to have our quarterback, or not a quarterback, but our special teams guys that are over there on the field by themselves the entire time. It's always the holder, the punter, and the kicker. We have the time to have a backup quarterback go and do the special team snaps, because they've got to learn the offense. They've got to be ready to go, be the next man up. So that is the way of thinking in the NFL. And I understand that from a specializing a position standpoint. It's not like we haven't done it before. Charlie Batch, I think, was our last holder. That was a quarterback. But he was in the league for years, and that was an older time where he was always a third quarterback, it seemed, but then he got promoted to second quarterback, and we just let him do the holding and stuff as the backup. So fun to watch. And I do like that too, to tell you the truth. I like having that option. But that is the reason why the Steelers do not have a backup quarterback holding. They have punters holding. And it's been a transition for the entire league has pretty much done that too, to keep your entire team as ready to go as possible. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to get to today, guys, other than just quickly going over the injury report and how we're looking at right now. COVID-wise, we saw Zach Banner, Marcus Allen, and Devin Bush, who are all players on the roster with COVID. All of those were assigned on the 22nd. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all on day 7. 9, 10 would be Thursday. If they're unvaccinated, they can return on Thursday. They all have a good shot of returning for Monday night. All 3 of them have a good shot of returning, in my opinion. So we will have to see how that shakes out for Zach Banner, Marcus Allen, and Devin Bush. Well, Marcus Allen's more of a backup. Devin Bush is a starter. Spillane had a decent game last game. I'm not faulting him for that. Anthony Miller and Carl Joseph just jumped on the COVID list for this past week, just a couple of days ago, 27th, yesterday. They were added to the list. So they're probably not going to be playing this week, but they're practice squad players. They may have been elevated for the game, but I don't see any of them really being an effective thing for that. Kevin Dotson is still in his 21-day window. He has to be activated by the 12th, or he's lost for the season. So it looks like he doesn't even have to be activated, because I think the 9th is our last game. So I'm hoping he gets in here maybe this week, maybe next week. We'll have to see. We could definitely use him. We could definitely use him on the offensive line. Kendrick Green had a calf injury. I don't know if it's a real calf injury or if he was pulled because of that sack fumble. We'll have to see if he can return this week in practice. Same thing with Trey Turner with his knee. We know that one's a little bit more legit. He's a vet. We'll have to see how he does. Pat Freiermuth missed last week with his concussion. That is concerning. It's his 2nd concussion of the season. So it's good that he had an extra week off, to tell you the truth, because concussions are just so tough to come back from. And for him not even to practice at all last week, we'll see if he's going to return to practice this week. He'd be a big guy to have back to help out the offense in any way, shape possible, because he can at least score touchdowns in the red zone. Chris Wormley, also with the groin, did not play last week. We'll see if he can return, because the Steelers need help on that left tackle spot. I mean, we had Loudermilk there last game. Let's see how he does. And, of course, T.J. Watt playing with pain. He's going to have those cracked ribs the rest of the year. So we'll see what they can do in that respect. Brian Brown, Steelers rule. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. And Robert, please continue on the point. The point isn't how lovable these guys are, that they are coddled, made starters over better players, benched or cut. Players that see that, and that's why Mike Tomlin messaged hollow Jarvis Landry. I understand that you're getting at something, saying they're probably keeping some players on the field that you think should not be on the field, which is the way that old Cower supporters and haters used to argue as well about keeping these veterans way longer than they should have. It was done with Gilbert. There's a reason why we let Vrabel go. Things like that. It just happens. It's these people know our system. They get playing, and they keep them in there. Sometimes you got to shake things up, and it looks like the only shakeups we had this year was like when we benched Bugs for that game, which was like going up against the best running team. We got shredded on the ground, and then he got hurt. I don't know if he's really hurt, or his feelings are hurt, but he's been hurt and not playing since. So that's another guy that can help us out in the middle, as well as Carlos Davis. We need somebody to help us out in the middle because we got a running team this week, and we got to find a way to beat the Cleveland Browns and establish the line of scrimmage on both sides and get pressure on Baker. That's the long and short of it. If we want to win this game, that's what we have to do. So, guys, come on over to Steeler Nation. Check out our great articles. Check out the fun I had with the Browns vidcast yesterday. www.steelernation.com. Obviously, subscribe here. Click here. Your likes, of course. Thanks a lot for being part of this, as always. Like I said, this is my most fun podcast of the week, and I mean it. I honestly mean it. It's live. I get to interact with all my friends here, Robert, Brian, everybody here live. It's fun. It's so fun to be able to talk with you guys and get your opinion. One more here from Robert. He's talking about Tuitt. I love Stephon Tuitt as well, but in all these cases, the Steelers need to make business decisions they have not made, and yet they violate their true standards by doing things by letting Melvin go. Yeah, I hated seeing Melvin go as well. And that felt a lot like, not as much when we let that running back go that was backing up Bell, that ended up going to the frickin' Patriots and winning a Super Bowl with them and having a huge 200-yard rushing game in one game. That guy you get to keep as a hostage, honestly. At the end of the season, he's a hostage. But right there at the trade deadline, you can get something for him. We got something for him. He went. He's gone. And, it's the way it is. Some things will never change. But we at least got a little something for Kansas City for Ingram. And good luck to him. He's got a chance to win his Super Bowl now. He didn't have that in Pittsburgh. So I can't fault the guy for that. Well, guys, if you want to go home, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Steeler Nation, Instagram at SteelerNation.com, the podcast on Twitter at _SN Podcast, over on Instagram, Steeler Nation Podcast, or me at SN Stryker for Steeler Nation Stryker, both on all the platforms, Instagrams, Twitters. You guys can follow me there. Thank you for being a part of the Steeler Nation vidcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the great Big Play Network, podcasting network. I'm your host, G. Stryker, rooting along with all of you as always, Steeler Nation. Go Steelers!